Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. This is another installment of reading you an excerpt of my favorite book to convince you to read it. So good to be back. I came out with a couple of pretty long videos these past couple of weeks, and believe it or not, the morning after I had filmed two videos in a row, so like the two longer videos that came out, these past couple of weeks, those were all filmed on the same day. And I made the mistake of filming them in the same day because I was just like, let's just get this, let's just do this. This is the day that I can do it. And it turns out I talked too much and I ended up getting sick. So we're gonna be careful today, and we're also going to drink a lot of water. So sorry if I keep pausing to do that, but I needed to do it. So today I'm just going to be reading, I think, the first chapter because it's not too long, but I'm going to read the first chapter of one of my favorite books that I have discovered by another sweet, amazing indie author who writes cozy fairy tale retellings that are also clean, no spice. And it's called Once Upon an Apple by Gabrielle Landi. And it's so cute. Just look at that. Look at that art. It's so pretty. This is the only hardcover that I have so far of her books, but I can't wait to collect the rest. In my previous video that was showing you guys the stuff that I got for my birthday and stuff that I treated myself to for my birthday, I had collected all of the like the paperbacks, but I cannot wait to get these. They're so pretty. So yeah, this one's the first one. There are a couple of books before this one, but they're like novellas and they're really short. But this one's the first full-length novel. Although even then it's pretty short. It's a pretty short book. It's only about two, let's see, 203 pages. So it's very short reads, and they're pretty digestible. So this one is her retelling of Snow White, and I talked about it a little bit in a previous video, but this one is just so sweet and cute. And it was a really refreshing retelling of Snow White where it was very like minimal magic as well. It's just kind of like slice of life in like this cute little town. The series is called the Gallimere Chronicles, by the way, and it takes place in the world of Gallimere. And yeah, it's just like so cute and sweet. And the thing that I loved about it the most, and I will keep talking about it because I feel like we need more books like this, but the guy saves the girl. She doesn't save herself. Now, she is very capable, but I love that he saves her because I was just like, we have so many books where the girl, especially in Snow White retellings, where like the girl saves herself and blah blah blah. But I loved this so much. It was so cute. I loved how he saved her, and it was one of the most like romantic, like knight in shining armor, like sweeping in to save her. And I was just like, this is a breath of fresh air. I've been waiting for this for so long, and it's so cute. So I love how she has a lot of her male characters sweep in and save the girl, even though the girl is still capable. But yeah, you can probably imagine how I feel about feminism because I have talked about it a little bit in the past. So, but yeah, I just love this. And also, I don't really have a blurb today because it's just a little catchphrase on the back. Excuse me. But all it says is a lord's son, a milkmaid, and 7 mischievous goats. So, one thing that I thought was kind of funny is that, similar to Hannah Sandvig's The Frost Gate, instead of giving us 7 dwarves, so like in The Frost Gate, it was 7 chickens, and this one it's 7 goats. It's so funny. But yeah, so I'm going to read you guys the first chapter. So excited for this. Which actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to pull out. Oh, sorry if you heard that. That was one of my trinkets that fell off my shelf. Oh, here it is. Okay, because I did want to read you guys the blurb. So I found the blurb for the paperback. So let me read this really quick. Okay. On the run from her past, Sophia has built a new life for herself as a milkmaid in the Northlands. She spends her days spoiling the baby goats. But even if she finally feels safe, something is still missing from her life. Lord Caspian Rendon has returned home to, in his father's words, get serious, and contemplate his life's path. Unfortunately, 2 years of training in the Royal Guard haven't brought him any closer to finding a wealthy wife, his most appealing plan to secure his future. But when he runs into beautiful and sweet Sophia, he begins to realize that maybe there's more in life than wealth, and soon he starts to fall for the goat girl. But when Sophia's mysterious past finally catches up with her, he must make a choice: risk it all for love or never see her again. Oh, so cute. And I love that his name's Caspian. I feel like we don't have a lot of um, main characters named Caspian. Like, obviously, I feel like the most famous one is like Prince Caspian from the Chronicles of Narnia, but we don't get a lot of Caspians. Like, we need more characters with that name. So, just a note to all the writers out there. All right, I apologize if I take this slow. I'm just wanting to make sure that I don't make myself sick again. So here we go. And also, it is dual POV in the third person. So we get chapters with Sophia, we get chapters with Caspian's POV. But yeah, so anyway, here we go. Making sure my microphone's there. I'm so excited that I have a microphone now. It's so cool. Okay. Chapter 1, Sophia. There was a stranger in her burnt. Oh my gosh. Hi guys. Oh my god. I flubbed it. I flubbed the first line. I was trying not to hurt my voice. Hold on, we're gonna go at it again. Forget you saw that, because I don't do any editing. So run it back. Okay. Chapter 1, Sophia. There was a stranger in her barn, and he was watching her. Sophia set down the bucket of water and turned back to the barn door, but he was gone, almost like he hadn't been there in the first place. But she knew he'd been there. Sophia didn't like strangers. She didn't like anyone watching her, whether she knew them or not. But strangers made her eyes twitch and a chill run down her spine. She turned back to her goats and put the bucket of water inside the pen, water sloshing as she set it down. "Are you ready for me to go to town?" she asked the goats as she tied the bucket to the fence. Hopefully, tying it would prevent them from knocking it over before she came back. Although Ivy had a way of knocking over just about everything, whether it was tied down or not. But maybe this time she would come back from town to a full bucket of water and not a puddle on the floor. Molly came bounding over and rubbed her head against Sophia's hand. Sophia smiled and rubbed the little goat's chin. Molly was her favorite. The goats technically weren't hers, they belonged to Lord and Lady Rendon, or more specifically, their young daughter Liliana. But since Liliana did nothing but play with them on occasion, they were effectively Sophia's goats. Even though Liliana had named the other three babies, Sophia had named Molly, and she loved the little goat with all her heart. "I'll be back to check on you later," she told Molly. She was going to go to town, spend some time at the cafe with her friends, and avoid any strange men. Sophia grabbed her shawl from where she'd put it on the hook by the door and started walking to town. As she walked through the gates of the manor, she looked back at it and smiled. Her new home had been wonderful to her. Such a difference from when she lived with Lady Manning. The freedom was intoxicating, and she couldn't ever imagine going back to her old home, if it could even be called that. The last thing she wanted was a strange man hovering around it. The short walk to town felt longer than usual, her senses on high alert as she watched for any strangers along the path. She listened to the birds singing and took in the bright colors of fall as she watched and listened for anyone who might be following her. The orange and red hues of the trees were so different from the spring flowers that had begun to bloom shortly after she arrived in the Northlands, but it was still beautiful. The town came into sight as she crested a hill. She quickened her pace and made her way to the center of town, where her friend Thea owned the cafe. When she opened the cafe door, a bell rang out. Sophia took a deep breath as she entered the cafe. That felt like a second home to her. There was a fire crackling in the fireplace, and the air smelled of warm, comforting foods. It wasn't easy to tell what Thea was cooking, but whatever it was sure to be delicious. Sophia scanned the cafe until she found Ginger, the resident cat of the Cozy Cat Cafe, and wandered over to scratch under her chin for a moment. Ginger started purring almost immediately, and after a moment, Sophia gave her a pat on the head and made her way to the counter. Thea waited with a smile, her face lighting up when Sophia approached. Today, she wore a green apron that set off her dark brown skin. Sophia inspected it as she approached. Was that a kitten embroidered on the top? It was. Hello, Thea said warmly. How are you today? I'm well, Sophia said. She was still uneasy over the stranger, though being here had washed away most of the anxiety. This place was a soothing balm for her soul. Thea narrowed her eyes, her fingers drumming a rhythm against the counter. What happened? Sophia shrugged her shoulders, her feet fidgeting. Nothing much. Thea reached out to place her hand over Sophia's. I can tell something's not right. Sophia wasn't used to having someone be concerned for her feelings. It was nice, even if she didn't want to answer the question. She chewed on her bottom lip as the bell over the door rang again. Their friend Diedrich walked in, conveniently saving her from having to answer. Hello, friends, he said as he made his way to the counter. How are you today? Something happened to Sophia, and she won't tell me what's wrong, Thea said. Thea, Sophia hissed. She shouldn't have assumed Dietrich's presence would save her, but she didn't expect Thea to tell Diedrich that something was wrong. Dietrich's eyes widened as he turned to Sophia. What happened? Nothing's wrong, Sophia protested. Dietrich threw an arm around her shoulders, his dark brown hair flopping over his forehead with emotion. If you think I'm going to take no for an answer after saving your life, then something is definitely wrong with you. Dietrich's concern made something well up in her throat. He and Thea were her first friends, and the fact that they were worried about her made her want to cry, which was unusual, but showing emotion always led to future trouble, so she shoved it down and shook her head. Honestly, it's nothing. There was a stranger in the barn earlier and I overreacted. Across the counter, Thea frowned. There aren't many strangers around these parts. I'm sure I just didn't recognize him since I'm so new. It rattled me a little, that's all. I don't like strangers. Anything to convince them to stop asking her questions. Sophia didn't like being the center of attention. And yet you moved to a town full of strangers, Dietrich said with an easy grin. I'll take my regular, Thea, and I'll get the goat girl's drink, too. I can get my own, Sophia protested. I make enough money. Dietrich grinned. Yeah, but sometimes it's fun to throw you for a loop. Sophia sighed as Dietrich paid for both of their drinks. You didn't have to do that. Let me. You know he's not going to let you pay him back, Thea said as she bustled away to make their drinks. So don't even bother trying. I was going to get my own drink, Sophia said weakly as Dietrich ushered her over to the cozy seats where they usually sat. Ginger was curled up next to Sophia's usual chair, waiting. As Sophia settled into her seat, the orange cat made her way onto her lap, purring in anticipation. Sophia leaned down and gave her a hug before petting her gently. So, other than the stranger, anything else happening this week? Dietrich asked, taking up most of the double occupant seat as he sprawled back. He ran his fingers through his hair and looked over at Sophia. Are the goats giving you more trouble? Always, she said, except especially little Molly. She has a way of getting out and getting into everything constantly. And yet she's your favorite somehow, Dietrich said, rolling his eyes. I know, Sophia said with a smile. She's just too cute. I just love her little brown nose and the white spot on her forehead. She's got you totally taken in, Dietrich said. You love every moment of it, and she's not even your goat. Sophia shrugged. It's not like Liliana is out there that often. She's basically mine. Sounds like an awful lot of trouble for your weekly wages, Dietrich said. At least I get weekly wages. He frowned and sat up straight. What do you mean? At least you get weekly wages. Did you not get paid at your last place? Sophia shook her head. She shouldn't have brought it up. She didn't want to talk about it, and now Dietrich wasn't going to let it go. Dietrich was an odd case. He liked to circumvent the rules sometimes, and yet he had an innate sense of justice that she'd rarely seen in the world, which was rather inconvenient when she made the mistake of bringing up her past. Where were you that you didn't get paid? Dietrich asked. I'm pretty sure that's legal. Sophia huffed. I don't think she cared. There's a reason I left. She didn't want to think about it. In fact, she'd be more than happy to pretend it never happened in the first place. The past is in the past, she said as Thea arrived with their drinks in hand. Sophia took hers with a murmured thank you as Thea sat down across from them. What's in the past? Thea asked, perching primly on the edge of her seat, always ready to jump up at a moment's notice if something was needed. Sophia took the first sip of her cinnamon honey coffee and relaxed, the drink soothing her somewhat. Sophia's not telling us everything about her previous occupation, Dietrich said. But since I don't particularly want you all digging around in my past either, I think I'm going to let it go. Sophia tucked that nugget of information away. What was in Dietrich's past that was so bad? She knew that he had lived in Ryle for many years, but only coming back somewhat recently. Did he have bad memories of Ryle too? He took a sip of his drink and sighed happily, relaxing back into the seat as he brushed his hair out of his eyes. Great job as always, Thea. You are a master at crafting the perfect beverage. Thea smiled. It's all my father's recipes. And your hard work, Sophia said with a smile, hoping to at least pretend that she wasn't as rattled as she was. What if the man had been sent by Lady Manning to find her? Thea was right. Strangers weren't common around here. She took a deep breath as the bell over the door rang again, and Beatrice walked in. Thea jumped to her feet and hurried behind the counter. I need a drink really quickly, and then I have to get back, Beatrice said, pausing at their chairs to give Sophia a hug from behind, the back of the chair sorry, 1 second. The back of the chair between them digging into Sophia's neck as she tried to lean into Beatrice's hug. What what are they? Or are they working you? Oh my god. Sorry, guys. What are they working you to death for? Dietrich asked. It's just a bunch of books. How important can they really be? For the sake of our friendship, I'm going to forget that you said that. Beatrice thumped him on the back of his head as she walked past to pay for her drink. Better not insult her books, Sophia told Dietrich. You know how important they are to her. Just as important as your goats are to you, he said. Sophia put her nose in the air and adopted a haughty accent. Absolutely, she said in her best mimicry of Lady Manning. Not that she didn't like books, but her goats were definitely better. Books couldn't snuggle you the way Molly did. Just remember, Dietrich warned, they're not your goats. It's one thing to love them, but we aren't nobility, and it's best not to get too attached to things. Why did he get so shifty all of a sudden? What had he gotten attached to in the past that he'd lost? Beatrix hurried over and sat down next to Sophia, putting her arm around her for a half hug. Her long brown hair brushed against Sophia's neck as she reached over to pet Ginger, who was still perched on Sophia's lap. I need a better hug. Today has been so busy, she said. So far, I've helped at least 4 children finish their schoolwork. The blacksmith needed information on one of the laws. What law? Dietrich asked, leaning forward with interest. Beatrice shook her head. You know I can't tell you that, she said. If I told everyone's secrets, no one would come to the library anymore. Dietrich shrugged. Pretty sure they can figure it out without the library anyway. Dietrich, Sophia said in a warning tone, if you two start going at it, I'm going to leave. Apologize. He sighed. I'm sorry that was unkind to you. Please forgive me. Only if you come pick out a book to read. but Beatrice said, a wicked glint in her eye. Dietrich shuddered. Maybe I'm not that sorry. Beatrice laughed. I was only teasing you. And don't forget, the library is always there if you need anything. Dietrich shook his head. Not likely. I know, Beatrix said with a smile as she stood. I'll be there nonetheless. Thea arrived with a steaming mug for Beatrice. Just bring it back before you go home for the night, she said, handing it over along with a wrapped muffin. And here's this. I imagine you probably forgot lunch again today, didn't you? Beatrice grinned. You're the best, Thea. I know, Thea said with a wink as Beatrice rushed off again, back to the library. Thea mothered everyone who came to the cafe. It was one of Sophia's favorite things about visiting her. Sophia stayed a little longer, chatting with Dietrich, Thea, and a few other friends who came and went. Her days off rarely aligned with everyone's, but she had come to love everyone she met at the Cozy Cat Cafe, and loved seeing any of them who were able to pop in on her day off. All too soon, it was time to head for home. Here, dear, have a muffin, Thea said, hurrying behind the counter. I think I made too many. Thea made too many muffins on purpose, she was sure of it, and yet she couldn't resist taking it. She breathed in the scent of the spicy, pumpkiny muffin and closed her eyes in a moment of pure happiness. Thank you, she said. Just a little treat, Thea said with a wink. Sophia wrapped her shawl around her shoulders as she let herself out the door. The breeze was cool, but her shawl kept her warm as she ate her muffin on the walk home. She kept an eye out for the stranger, but there was no sight of him. Maybe he was just passing through. Maybe she was overreacting. She made her way to the kitchen for some bread and cheese, eating it as she prepared for bed, and settled on the cot in the room that she shared with some of the other maids. Did you see that new guard? One of the girls asked. I heard he's just arrived from Ryle, another said. He's so handsome, a third said. Sophia kept her head down. She didn't want to draw attention to herself, and she didn't like gossiping, though she didn't mind listening to it. A handsome new guard seemed like an apt description for the stranger in the barn, which was some comfort. It didn't change her mind, though. The other girls could stare all they wanted. She would avoid the stranger. All right, I hope that that wasn't too clunky for you guys. I know that might have been a little bit of a long read, but I hope that it convinced you to check out this book and Gabby's other books. I know, hold on. Thank you. I know that Gabby, she has like another series. I think it's like a contemporary small town romance series. I believe it's also like clean, no spice as well. But I don't know if I'm ever gonna check those books out, just to be real, because I'm not really a contemporary fan. But I know for sure that I'm going to continue to read and collect all of her Gallimere Chronicles books. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope that it also got you into like this perfect fall mood. I know that we're in the middle of November, we're moving more towards December, but Texas still, excuse me, holding on to like that late summer, kind of early fall feel. Hopefully, we will get a little bit more fall weather before it really sinks into winter. But yeah, this is like the perfect fall read, by the way, if you couldn't gather from the vibes as I was reading. So, yeah, I would say that most of her books are perfect for fall, winter. I feel like they don't really take place in the summer, but we'll see because I haven't read her other newest ones that are just coming out. I would say Once Upon an Apple and like the two novellas before it are kind of that perfect like autumn read, and then Once Upon a Rose, which is her Beauty and the Beast retelling, that one takes place more in the winter. Also, if you couldn't tell by the character of Beatrice, oh, sorry, I moved the camera a little bit. But if you couldn't tell by the character of Beatrice, who works at the library, that made a little cameo appearance, her story continues in Once Upon a Rose. Also, another cool thing about these books that's kind of similar to Hannah Sandvig's fairy tale romances is you can read these books in pretty much any order, and because they're like pretty good like contained standalones, but there is a specific reading order. Maybe at some point I will do a full video kind of similar to what I did with the Hannah Sandvig video, talking about all about the Gallimere Chronicles and stuff, but we'll see. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to include the link to Gabrielle Landi's Instagram and her website because even though she has these books on Amazon and stuff, she does have a website that you can buy direct from and you can get even more goodies and stuff too. It is also the only place where this, if I can grab it, where this novella, Once Upon a Cafe, is. You can only get it digitally on Amazon, and it is about um, it's actually about the character of Thea and how she got started, like opening the cafe. And then even before that, you have Once Upon a Cake, which is about Thea and like a little bit of a romance that she had back when she was a little bit younger. Because it's hard to tell, but her character is a little bit older than the rest. She's maybe about like 10, 12 years older than the character of Sophia. So I hope that that kind of gives you an idea. Because like I think she's like 30 basically, because I think Sophia is meant to be like 18, 19. But yeah, and also another interesting thing that I'm hoping to get for maybe Christmas or sometime soon is both of these books are included in a hardcover omnibus called Tales of Cake and Comfort. So that hardcover is available on Amazon. It's the only way to get this one in print, but if you want this one in print as paperback, you have to get it from Gabby's website. I hope that that makes sense. But but anyway, I'll include those links down below. Go check it out. And thank you so much for watching, guys. And stay safe out there. Don't get sick. Love you.